Anthony Hartwig here with another segment of what we are calling Living the Dream here on YSN. And we are joined by someone that you probably know from the biggest stages of softball, from Florida State and now the Texas Monarchs playing professionally. It is Devyn Flaherty. Devyn, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
You've been able to do a lot of amazing things. We're going to talk about all of them, but I want to start with the start of the story. Every story has a beginning, and I'm sure you kind of reflect fondly on the way you started playing softball and talk about, when you started to fall in love with the game and how you picked up the sport.
Yeah. I think at a super young age, my parents had us in a lot of sports. My brother played t-ball, kind of followed him in those footsteps, played a little baseball. And then my parents were like, yeah, we probably should move her over to softball. Played soccer and softball. All of elementary school, middle school, wanted to play both in college, but tore my ACL my freshman year of high school and kind of just made the decision that softball was probably the smarter path and had a few more opportunities collegiately at that time. So, but just fell in love with sports from a young age. I mean, all in general, I want to work in baseball now. So I think I just love the game. I love the team atmosphere. I love the leadership. I love just getting to grow. So I think just from a young age, all of those things and the different things that it instills in you, like hard work, team, loyalty, all of those things. I've really grown to love those aspects too.
When do you think it shifted from softball, something fun that you love, to softball is something that I can really make a good, living on, and I can go and I can work hard and become a college softball player?
Yeah, I think probably when I was getting recruited, it was still happening at a super young age. So just then, my parents definitely held my hand a little bit, like just emphasized what's important, what's in the long haul. But around the end of elementary school, the beginning of middle school, which sounds so crazy, but that's when the recruiting was happening during my time. And just realizing that this could set me up good for life, getting a good degree and getting to enjoy all of those moments that college athletics can bring you and how it can grow you as a person. So at a pretty young age, but I definitely continue to grow that fire of like changing from just fun to kind of more competitive and stuff throughout middle school and high school.
Was there also a moment or a year where you kind of figured out how good you were at softball and like, hey, this could be something special?
Um, I honestly, and I tell a lot of people this, like I never thought I was super good at softball. I just thought I was like athletic and had some of those tools that you couldn't always teach. Always wanted to learn more too. So I never thought I was a great softball player, but I thought that, I was a good athlete and a good leader and stuff like that. So I think not necessarily a great softball player, but I think one of the Atlanta Legacy showcases in middle school, I think it was 6th or 7th grade, and I was playing on an older team at the time. And there was about, 30, 40 like big college coaches there at one of our games. And I was like, wow, like this is real. And then playing smaller tournaments in Florida because I didn't play on one of the teams that went all over the place all the time. And Coacha and Tim Walton were always there. And I think that was kind of eye-opening too.
So you're a part of a group of players that could commit very early, like you said. I mean, recruiting was starting at a very young age. There were plenty of players in your class that could commit before they even stepped on the high school softball field freshman year. You tear your ACL freshman year of high school. What was that like to go through that? Because that's right in the time when people are committing and your recruiting process for you is heating up. What did you go through mentally when you were trying to get back from that injury?
Yeah, it was tough for sure. I think it was honestly a little tougher, like the heartbreak of losing soccer because I loved it just as much as I loved softball. So having to make that decision to, realize what was probably the smartest path for me was really hard. And then coming back from it, it's a tough injury. It's a long time, and there's a lot of, I would say, like stagnant time where you feel like you're not going anywhere because it just takes so long to recover. But I really just bought into the fact of this is going to make me a better athlete. Everything happens for a reason. I tore it for a reason and ended up working out in my favor. I think I would never have been as strong, as fast, as durable as I was throughout my college career without the training and the physical therapy that I received from someone that I trusted a lot during that time. So it was tough, but I actually had already narrowed down my schools to like 3 or 4 schools at the time, took all my visits already, which is once again crazy. Had like 1 or 2 lined up, but I was pretty sure of my top 2 or 3, so I kind of just decided to make the decision after that and definitely never looked back.
When you think about your recruiting process, everyone's different. Everyone's looking for different things during that time. What was it like for you going through that? And then what made you settle on Florida State?
It was hard. Like I once again so young, but it was so cool. I mean, getting to go, I was lucky enough, like even though they were unofficials, my parents really wanted me to see everything. They wanted me to look at all different types of schools. So I got the chance to go on quite a few visits and meet the coaches, meet the girls, see the atmosphere. I grew up a Florida State fan. I grew up in Tallahassee. So it was kind of hard because everyone always says like, when you know, you know, but I was like, how am I going to know if I've grown up here, if I've always gone here? And so took all those visits and narrowed it down to a few. And I was like, my dad was like, it wasn't Florida State. And my dad was like, just take one more visit. Like it's been hard for you to go there and kind of decipher between like your past and your future. And I took a visit and actually was the weekend of some of their officials, and they had like a team event and they were just talking about, the coaches and the environment and how much the place grows you as a person and not just a player. And that was always big for me. Like, kind of ironic now playing professional softball, but I knew softball wasn't forever. And I wanted somewhere that would care about me just as much as a person, as a player, and get a good education and set myself up for, a good future. And I think when they started talking about that, I was like, okay. And it kind of just like opened my eyes to seeing the school differently. And I think I committed like a week or 2 later.
When you committed and you kind of knew, okay, this is reality now. I'm going to be a college softball player. That's under wraps. My recruiting is done. What kept you motivated to keep trying to get better in those years before you stepped onto Florida State's campus?
I think Florida State's success, for one, I mean, such a successful program. And even before you get there, they kind of instill their core values in you, and caring about the program and wanting to leave it better than you found it. So, if you can grow as a person and you can grow as a player and be open to coaching and learning, the chances of you leaving Florida State better than you found it are pretty high. And that feeling is just like, there's nothing like it. And so I think the ability to have an impact on that school and on the people around you and just a small sliver of an impact, anything at all, and then it be able to give back to you is definitely what kept me motivated. And obviously the recovery process coming off an injury. And just, I would say the last thing is probably just the competitiveness, like everyone wants to play and everyone wants to contribute in some way and do it from a young age. And I'm a firm believer that that takes a little bit of luck because you're coming into such a good school and such good programs, but it also takes a lot of hard work and a lot of consistency. So
when you make that decision, you automatically become a community celebrity. We've seen it here with the players that have made their names to big name schools like that. What was it like to kind of get a taste of what the community is going to be like when you make that decision and the attention that you get and kind of the hometown hero treatment that you get once you make that decision?
yeah, it was super cool. I mean, my family, both my parents went to law school there. My brother went to undergrad there. And now my sister plays beach volleyball there. And then we also have like a group of all of our best friends where all their parents went to Florida State too. So it was super cool because obviously, they all wanted what was best for me, but to be, playing there at such a high level and have the people you love and that have supported you for so long around you. And then also to be from Florida and, one of the top 2 schools in the state and have the ability to play on TV and play in front of everyone. It was just super cool. And everyone was so supportive and everyone back home, like just super always in my corner, always letting me know that. So it was really cool.
I want to take you back to signing day because being committed is one thing, but once you sign the name on that dotted line, the reality kind of hits. So what was signing day like for you to make it official that these dreams of college softball were going to be a reality and nothing was going to step in your way anymore?
Yeah. It was pretty surreal. I mean, because at that time I was committed for about 3 or 4 years and taking visits for probably like 5 or 6 and, in communication with the coaches and the girls and all of that. So the realization that you're now going to be on campus and, just a few months and be able to contribute and just be a part of something so much bigger than yourself was super special. And know that kind of too, like my parents put a lot into my softball career and my softball travels prior to college, definitely in college too, but prior to college. So kind of be able to give back in that way and, get school paid for, not have to make them worry and all of those things. Of course, they would have done it, but just kind of give back a little bit in that way of everything they gave me the opportunity to do.
When you think about first stepping on campus and first, having those first tastes of college softball, what was your kind of welcome to D1 softball moment where you realized really quickly, new world?
Well, I have a few, but I would say the biggest one was the second game of the season against Alabama. I started at shortstop my freshman year before COVID hit, and I actually didn't play much shortstop after that, but I made like 2 or 3 errors, and I was like, "Oh my god." And the stadium was just, they were not mean, but they weren't forgiving, and coach was like, "Yeah, we're gonna stick you in right field." And that was pretty eye-opening and certain things like that. And I can look back at it and laugh now, but I was like, "Okay, here we are."
One of the things that players have talked about in this segment is how the reality of coaches starting to really pick apart your game and finding things that you really need to improve on. When you come into college, you think, "Hey, I'm one of the best. I dominate high school." What was it like for you to all of a sudden almost have to start back at square one, where you find little holes in your swing with all the technology that they have, and you find little things that you can improve on for defense, and you get coached at that level? What was that like mentally for you to transition to that?
It was a lot. It was hard. Obviously COVID cut my freshman season short, was hitting pretty well, was playing okay defense, like wasn't really much to go off of. And then the next year played pretty good defense, didn't hit great, kind of broke down my swing and worked back from it and had a much better offensive year that sophomore year. And then, people just found your holes. And I had a big hole in my swing. And for the first half of both my last seasons, I struggled. And I struggled because they would pick apart my swing and they would throw to my weakness a lot. And I wasn't used to it, like being in the heart of the lineup, being, someone that scouted a lot and all of those things. It was really hard. And I knew I had a hole in my swing. And I think sometimes you get focusing too much on that and rather than what you're good at. And it's just like a little bit of a mental game and trying to get out of that. So it was definitely hard and it definitely took some time. And I was lucky enough to figure it out that second
Mhm.
half of both those years. But it's a mental grind, like being on the field too. Like when you're not hitting well, like sometimes you try not to let it go to your defense. And when you're not defending well, you try not to let it go to your hitting. Like it's just all the things. So I think the game of softball and baseball is so much more mental than physical. I mean, especially at that level, you work so hard and you're there for a reason and you have the best coaches and the best resources, but you have to be strong mentally. You have to be willing to go through it. So I think it taught me a lot and it definitely made me a better person and player.
What were some things that you leaned back on mentally? Because everyone has different techniques to get through mental challenges, whether it be a slump
Mhm.
or defensive struggles. What were some things that you did or leaned back on to get through those mental challenges?
I would definitely say just hard work, going back to it. Like, I always said like, you're either you're prepared or you're not. And when you prepare, it gives you a sense of calm. Like you don't know if you're going to perform in that moment or you're going to come up big for your team, but you know that you did everything you possibly could to be successful in that moment. And so even if you're mentally not there, if you're giving it 100%, whatever you have, and you prepared to be where your feet are in that moment, um, then there's not much else you can do because that's the game and you can't ride the highs and the lows. So definitely the preparation piece and just going back to the drawing board of hard work. And then at Florida State, we were lucky enough to have a few people that helped us out mentally, like outside resources, like with the game and different ways to cope and different ways to work through things because of how much of a struggle it can be at times. And I definitely dove into that. Dr. Tom Hansen, for me, he was a big one. He's out of Tampa and he works with a team and he works with us individually. And, just the ways he kind of teaches me to handle the game and work through it was career changing at times.
Being at Florida State, you were a part of a coaching staff that is probably one of the most well-respected coaching staffs in the whole country, and that's saying something when you look at the coaches that exist in the college softball world. How much of an impact did that coaching staff have on you throughout your career, and what do you think was so special about the bond you created with the coaching staff you had as a Seminole?
Yeah, I mean, I literally couldn't say enough about them. Coach T. Will, T. Cam, Rafter, Ellie, they're better people than they even are better coaches. So like you guys all get to see kind of the outcome of what we can do on the field and the woman they make us into, but that grind of daily caring about people, they care about us so much more as people than as softball players. And I think that's really what it comes down to. They care about you and they want you to be the best you can be. And I think that's the foundation of it. And then when it comes to like a coaching standpoint and a player standpoint, I would say the biggest thing I'm learning kind of being at the professional level now is just their ability to coach to the player. It's a changing game and you're adding technology, you're taking away, the pitching is doing this, the hitting is doing that. And their ability to adapt and kind of buy into whatever is working at that time. And then their ability to not teach one way. I'm a different player than Kaylee Harding was, than anyone was. And so T. Will and Rafter, they're not going to teach us to hit the same because it's not going to work. So their ability to kind of work with you as a player differently from person to person, I think speaks volumes. And then just how much they still care about you. I mean, coach has sent me a care package. She's been texting, always text with the guys. Rafter's out doing her thing at the Canada Cup. They just won bronze and you just care so much about them and they create a culture like no other because of how much they love you and how much in return you end up loving them and the program that they've built.
Talk about loving you. I know you said earlier the fans weren't very forgiving when you made those first, but the fans of Florida State, my word, the atmosphere, I've seen many players on the opposing teams get razzled by Florida State fans. What makes playing in that atmosphere so special?
Yeah. I think I've been super lucky. I've kind of seen it. I think after they won in 2018, they were up and coming for a little while. Then they won in 2018 and, they kind of knew what worked and Tallahassee just bought into it. And Coacha works so hard to get the community to surround us and love us. And we try to work really hard too, to show them that we love them and we're there to support them in different ways. And then Mr. Alford on top of it has done such an amazing job of putting the resources into women's sports, in a sense, kind of like putting his money where his mouth is. Like he knows how much the community loves us and how much they love soccer and the Plex. And so just building that up so we can attend to those fans and how much they love us. And I've been a part of so many amazing games at the Plex. I mean, winning an ACC championship there, winning super regionals, like just so special. And I think you don't have those atmosphere without those fans. So I think it's only going to grow. I think they're going to have to build a bigger parking garage. They're going to have to build more seats. They're going to have to do something because Tallahassee loves Florida State softball. And it's just super special to be on the receiving end of that.
Do you have any crazy or fun fan interactions that you've been able to have throughout your Florida State career that stick out in your mind and like, wow, that was an awesome, interaction that I had with a fan?
Nothing I would say like super specific, but just in general, like seeing little girls wear your jersey with the name on your back or the name on the front and wanting you to, sign their ball or say they're your favorite player or they look up to you. As you get older and you play a lot, you're obviously, on a team like that has a lot of support, like kind of well known. So just understanding like how you carry yourself and what you say to these little girls is going to matter so much. So I think whenever we would, talk to little girls after the game or even little boys or whoever, families, and then in return, they would email Coach and be like, thank you so much. Like this player or that player talked to my son or daughter and it made their year. Like just hearing things like that is pretty surreal, especially for us because we know, it might not carry on forever. It's not, like baseball or anything like that. And hopefully it can be one day, but just those opportunities to impact them in the littlest of ways.
When players are chasing their dreams and they're watching players like you and teams like Florida State, all they see is ESPN and you guys playing the World Series, all the fun stuff that comes along with it. What are some things that you tell them if they ask you about like the behind the scenes stuff that people don't see? Like you need to know this before you step on a college campus.
That's a good question. I think at Florida State, a lot goes into it. Like we pride ourselves in being strong and fast and buying into that and taking care of our bodies. But we also pride ourselves in just being a really smart team and understanding the game in ways that, not everyone probably buys into. And we really look at it and we really dive into it because then when it comes down to it, like, people just don't always understand how we beat them because we just can beat them in so many ways. And we know how and we take pride in it, but just the everydays, like the little things, it takes so much more to get to those moments. And probably the fact that you're going to fail in so many of those moments before you can be successful. And that's what, makes it so special.
When you think of now playing professionally and how this opportunity came up, we can't let you go without talking about it and what kind of, opportunity and special blessing this summer has been for you to play with the Monarchs. Talk about kind of how this opportunity came about and what made you want to continue your softball career.
Yeah. Well, our GM is Alex Powers, one of my favorite Seminoles, and she played a little bit before me. I think she graduated in 2017 and I started in 2019. So I knew of her. AP has been doing, ACC network and all the things. And we, pride ourselves in keeping in contact with the alumni because, they left it better than they found it for us. And we want to leave it better and stay in contact with the young ones, all the things. So just someone that I always got along with, someone that I always respected her game, respected her process, loved the way, she took on life after college too. So she just gave me a call and was like, I'm building a team and I'm interested in seeing if you want to play. And it did, it took me a little while. I wasn't sure, didn't know other opportunities. But at the end of the day, I think to be able to say you played professionally, to say that you got the opportunity, to say I got to play for a team that is ran by Alex with the girls that are on this team, just super special and something I think I would regret if I didn't do, and now doing it, just so happy. And I think it's just a different level and it's learning new things and it's super awesome to do it with different girls from different teams. And you're still growing as a player, but you also have so much more in the bank to build off of. So it's just a different opportunity, but so special and just, want to see softball grow and help it in any way I can. So just an awesome, awesome time.
You're a part of a group of women in this league that are pioneers for professional softball, building it for future players to have a dream to play it. What are some things that you kind of goals for professional softball that you hope that you can create and you can build foundations for so that girls ahead of you can still have that dream? What are some things that you see like, man, I hope that I can help build professional softball to this point?
I think that just the ability to be treated to your male counterparts. I hope that professional softball can get there one day. And I think hopefully it's coming. I think the ability to grow it at each level and then get there is big. And then the revenue side of it, once you get here is big. But I think you have to be willing to play. You have to be willing to stick it out. You have to be willing to grind out the summer of a lot of games and then grind out the off season. I think the off season is the hardest part. So maybe not having as much of an off season, a little bit longer of a season, a little more pay, just all of the things. But I think just when girls coming out of college, my age, coming from schools like me, being known like me, your ability to give back and continue the game because you have to keep playing and you have to keep it playing at a really high level if we want to achieve that. So I'm kind of just, in awe of some of the girls I get to play against, some of the girls I get to play with. So it's super special and kind of just learning from them and then moving up from there and knowing what I can do.
You talked about earlier how you knew softball wasn't going to be forever, even though you are playing professionally. Eventually, your career, is going to end. We hope it's not for a while. We hope to keep playing, of course. But when you struggle with that, you have to also deal with identity outside of softball. I want to talk about that real quick and how you built the identity outside of softball and saw yourself as more than just a softball player, and some advice that you give to girls that are getting to that level that have to kind of deal with that as well.
Yeah. Once again, I think goes back to like my coaching staff was lucky enough that, they don't make you just a softball player. They make you a better person, and they make you confident, and they make you a young woman that's ready to attack whatever it is next. So I was lucky to come out of that. I don't know because I'm still playing, but I do feel comfortable, whenever it is time to take that next step, that I know who I am and to go from there and be able to grow. But I would just say to not make softball your identity and find happiness outside of it. I always tell people Florida State was the best 5 years of my life, take away softball. So super lucky to have that. And then you add all of the amazing experiences I had with softball. But I think it kind of starts there because, if you're unhappy and you're not enjoying your college life, whatever it is, it might be football games, volleyball games, more of the college atmosphere, like the liberal arts, all of those things, whatever it is that you might enjoy. If you're not doing that outside of softball, then it's going to make it really hard because everyone knows how hard softball is at times. So finding the happiness outside of that and finding your people that make you happy would be my biggest advice, because when you have a strong support system, going through this game gets a lot easier because it, once again, so difficult. And then finding things outside of softball that you enjoy. Kind of similar. I enjoy baseball and I want to work in baseball. So I've just tried to really, push for that and move into that and grow that way. But just kind of getting excited for what's next and not being sad for what you're leaving behind.
All right, with all these player interviews, we end it by giving the player the chance to take the limelight off themselves a little bit and shine it on the people that got them to where they are, their support system, the people in their corner. I know you have to have a big village, a lot of people that have
Mhm.
gotten to you where you are. As much time as you want. We're not the Oscars. We're not going to cut you off. So as many thanks and shout outs that you want to give, I want to give you the time to be able to do that.
Nice. Obviously my family, my parents did everything for my brother, sister, and I to be able to be comfortable and grow up with everything we needed, and then just fully support us. Like I don't think, my dad he missed one or two away series because it was COVID and he wasn't allowed to go. And then my mom was traveling with my sister for beach volleyball, but then once she got in college and was able to play, they were able to kind of switch off sometimes. And my mom go to McKenna's beach volleyball and my dad come to me, and just all the things. So I think my family support, their ability to be there in the big moments too. I think when we were in Oklahoma City a few times, we obviously made a few national championship runs, and those are long, long trips. And I think most of my family stayed the whole time. So just super thankful for that. And then my extended family and everyone that could come. And then obviously my coaches and just the Florida State program. I think everyone, even in the athletics department, Mr. Alford, Laura, everything. They have given me so much. And then I would just say my friends. I made friends for a lifetime, and I met, my best friends, and they're going to be in my life forever. And I couldn't be more thankful. So
Devyn, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us and talk to us about your story and share your journey with all the softball players that'll be watching this and trying to achieve what you've already gotten done and to reach their dreams. We know they're going to hear this and they're going to be inspired. So want to thank you for continuing to build this game that I know we both love so much. And we look forward to talking to you real soon.
of course, thanks for having